The show is about to start. Thank you for your cooperation. Enjoy the show, and please come back and visit us again.
All right, everybody, and welcome to the new season of the 9 Years podcast, here to relight your fire for all things AFC Wimbledon in the new season, as my co-presenter Stuart Deakins shakes his head. Because not normally, it's very rare that we actually do the intro to the podcast live, as it were, in person. We're normally doing this over the phone.
Yeah, I know, you switch off and put the mute on.
Nice. Thanks. So that's really encouraged all the listeners, isn't it? If they're listening for the first time, they thought, oh, blimey, you've got an interview with Lyle Taylor, I'm going to give this a listen. Oh, and the presenter's saying, don't bother.
I'm already going through my notes very quickly and thinking what am I talking about, but there's no difference there anyway. Welcome to the new season.
The new season. Season 4. You remember that, yeah? Season 4, not season 3.
Yeah, I lost a year. I can't believe it's season 4, and I apologise to anyone who listens. And going through a full season.
Proudly boasting, Stu was during the summer on internet message boards, going, can't wait for the third season of the podcast to start. Can't believe it's the third. Yeah, we've already done 3, but never mind. Year 4.
We've done well to get to the second season.
We have. So if you think we've done 3 seasons already, this is the 9 Years podcast. We've got 6 left.
Of course. We'll find a different name.
Yeah, we'll have to change the name then. Anyway, right, welcome back. Thank you for joining us today, whether you're listening on iTunes, YouTube, 9wirespodcast.org, or the usual, as I've mentioned there, Lyle Taylor is our big guest today. We'll be broadcasting an in-depth chat with him very, very shortly. We also have some new features this season. Well, not this season, because one of these features isn't going to go all the way through the season, but we'll talk about that later on. A retro television review, which I'm very much looking forward to because it could go horrendously wrong. And also we have a brand new game, your favourite thing of all, Stu.
Love it. Can't wait to see what I'm going to fail at this year.
Yeah. Of course, we'll get this in now. We are the weekly AFC Wimbledon podcast, but we are contactable all week long, aren't we, on social media? So if you don't already follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, then just search for 9YRS podcast for us on there, and please do follow us if you don't already. 9YRS podcast, which looks really good as a Twitter handle when you print it on the screen, but when you're having to say it and you have to spell it out every week, it's a bit of a ball ache, but never mind. Right, that's enough of. We could talk about pre-season, but no one really cares. We beat Brighton, it was all good. We've got lots of new players. Seasons will start for a couple of weeks. We'll probably talk more about that next week on the show, I imagine, because we've got a bumper edition this week, haven't we? We've got a lot to squeeze in.
We have, and we've still got some new players to come in as well, haven't we? So we've obviously got we've done it well to upset a certain club this week, and I'm sure that will resolve itself. Fingers
crossed. Well, we've got to play them, haven't we, this weekend, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I can guess he's not playing, but yeah.
No.
Or he's playing for another team, maybe, I don't know. But.
Well, we shall watch this space in terms of said player, but that is a striker, of course.
Yep.
To replace perhaps one striker that has sadly departed. And we're joined by Lyle Taylor in the glorious surroundings of Battersea Park on probably one of the hottest days, if not the hottest day of the year. I was going to say it's glorious, Lyle. I've got to be honest. I'm sick of this weather. I'm absolutely sick of this heat by now. I don't know about you. What's pre-season like in these temperatures? Does it affect anything? Does it affect plans? Does it change anything?
I don't think it changes that much, but I'm not enjoying it either, so I'm with you. I'm doing the rain dance at the moment, just praying for a bit of rain, because the pitches are too hard. Even though they're watered, they're too hard. I mean, it's ridiculous running around when it's 30 degrees, but there's not a lot you can do. You just got to get on with it, really.
So it doesn't change anything like... So normally, I guess, the intensity of your pre-season sort of ramps up as you go along. Doesn't delay things, or doesn't... Do they say come in a bit earlier, a bit later, try and avoid the sort of hottest parts of the day? Or does it just, as you say, carry on as normal?
No, I mean, it's carry on as normal, and if I'm completely honest, it's quite hard to miss the hottest parts of the day when you're doing 3 sessions a day. So,
yeah,
I suppose that kind of is what it is. You just get on with it. It's horrible, it's painful, and there's plenty of fluid passed around.
Yeah, I bet. So you're at Charlton now, sadly, very sadly for us. Decision made in the summer. There were rumours about you and Charlton at tail end of last season, second half of last season. Was there actually anything to that? Or was that just a lot of paper talk? Or was an approach made to us in January or anything like that? Or was it...
From what I was told, there were 2 approaches made in January, and it was a case of the position we were in. The club said that it wasn't in their best interest to let me go. And if I'm completely honest, I understand that and I respect that. It's not like anything was hidden from me. So I fully respect the club and the manager's stance on that. And at the end of the day, we achieved what we set out to achieve, which was survival. So I'm proud that I was part of that, and it doesn't bother me that I wasn't allowed to leave in January. That's fine. I did my job, and I'd like to think that come the end of the season, there were a lot of happy people that we managed to be in the position we were in.
So then, come the summer, then obviously out of contract with us, what tempted you to actually make the leap over to Charlton?
Well, I mean, it's well documented that there was interest from Sunderland. There was interest from Charlton. I went and met the manager at Sunderland, and he was brilliant. I met Lee Bowyer, and he was brilliant. Obviously, I knew the facilities at Charlton, having been there as a 13-year-old on trial, and knowing that it hasn't changed that much over the years. Obviously, things have got better. Technology's moved on, so there are things that have got better, and the setup is very good. Obviously went up to Sunderland, and it's like a country club up there. Honestly, it's crazy. You wouldn't believe the facilities they have. But then if you look at it 2 years ago, they were just relegated from the Premier League. So it was a big decision for me to make, and I was very impressed with both managers. And impressed with the facilities at both clubs, but I felt for me the best thing to do would be to stay in London and around my family and my support network, because that's important to me. And ultimately the decision came down to a footballing decision, and I decided that Charlton was the place that I needed to go to.
It's interesting to say that, because I was thinking, obviously, throughout your career, you started in London, then you moved obviously up to Scunthorpe and Sheffield United, you've been in Scotland. Do you think, obviously, your time at Wimbledon, your best return for goals, arguably probably the best way you've played, do you think that was your home network and being at home? Was there any reason why you went up north? Was it just because they were the moves that were available, or was it you were trying to move away from home or anything like that?
No, they were the moves that were available then. I kind of left Bournemouth in a really weird situation where I was told I was going to get another contract, and then 2 weeks later I got a phone call saying we're not going to give you another contract, and that was like a 45-second phone call to release me. So that is what it is. And then obviously the events that spiralled from there, I ended up in Scotland, and then Sheffield, and then Scunthorpe, and back on loan in Scotland twice, and then I was offered the chance to come home, as it were. And as soon as the gaffer was interested in me, when I was at Scunthorpe, I did absolutely everything I could to push that through. I won't go into what I did to push it through, because it might not be seen as the way to go about things, but I was 7th choice striker at Scunthorpe in that pre-season, behind 2 first-year pros. So, I mean, that just kind of says it all, really. But the best 3 years of my life were spent at Wimbledon. It would be nostalgic for me to say I'd like that to be the case come the end of my career, but the way I am and the way I'm wired, I want to go and do that and more again, and again and again, and that's just who I am. I won't ever forget those 3 years, because they have been and will always be memorable for the highs, the lows, and the indifferent spells that I had as well. But the fans were brilliant with me, the manager was brilliant for me, and the boys around me were great as well. So I can't complain at those 3 years, and I'm glad it's kind of gone how it's gone. And I'm glad I managed to leave on the high of us staying in the league, rather than being relegated and then almost feeling like you jumped ship.
Yeah, I mean, last season was going to be freshest in most people's memories. I mean, your whole time at Wimbledon, 3 seasons, like you say, 150 games, 55 goals. It's not bad. It's all right. Top scorer in all 3 seasons, I think.
It's all right.
It's all right. It's not too bad. But obviously, as I say, last season, fresh in memories. For us, it was a bit of a slog of a season, like you say, making sure we didn't go down, make sure we preserved our status, if I can get that word out. Did it feel like as much of a slog to you guys within the squad as it did for us, in terms of, obviously, we're basing most of our things on results. We're turning up on a Saturday, we're seeing results. things going against us, although not for long spells. In fact, we picked up points on a fairly regular basis, in fairness. We didn't go on long losing runs or anything like that. But it was obviously, concerns that we were in the bottom six or whatever. But was the atmosphere around the squad representative of that, or was it more upbeat? Did you think performances were actually all right, despite some of the poor results that we might have suffered?
It's a tough one because some of the performances were actually not too bad, and I mean we got some real bad luck. And the one that sticks out for me was the goal where the ball never went over the line. I can't even remember who. Was it Wigan maybe or Blackburn or something like that? And the ball didn't even go over the line, and they gave the goal, and you sat there thinking, what have we got to do to get a little bit of luck?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was tough when you're in that place and you think, okay, no, it will sort itself out next week, and then next week comes and it doesn't sort itself out, and you get to a point where you start worrying, and that, I think that's human nature. Obviously, it's slightly different for the players because we've not grown up. The majority of the players, obviously, some of them excluded, but we've not grown up as Wimbledon fans, so it's not so much our club in a sense of what happened before with the club being swept from underneath the fans' feet, and it's not our club in the same way as it's your club. But pride and professional pride says no, this can't happen, not while I'm here, and that's kind of the stance I adopted, was this club can't go down on my watch. And we all kind of got to a place where there wasn't really. There was so much pressure that there wasn't any pressure, and I think that was kind of indicative of the performance against Charlton at home.
Yeah.
When it was a pretty even game, if I'm honest. I felt at the time we deserved to win the game because I felt we'd taken the game to them, and we'd done everything we could to win that game, and obviously the little bit of luck from my now teammate falling over. And putting me through.
I guess you reminded me of that already. Yeah?
Oh yeah, I've reminded him of that, don't worry. But yeah, that little bit of luck, and that was finally we got that little bit of luck. And I think we worked so hard last year that we deserved that luck at times. And I think there was a lot of times where we didn't get it. Did we end the season on an even keel, almost with luck for and against? I'd say the club was probably still owed a little bit. So I hope the club can cash that in the future, whether that's with the stadium or whatever it might be. But as long as it's not against my new employers. Of course.
I think it's interesting what you say, because there was an interview you did. I think it was round about a Charlton game. You said you're not going down on my watch, and I think it was quite powerful at the time. I think as fans we hadn't seen that real performance. Do you think tactics went out the window a little bit towards the end of the season? Because that Charlton game wasn't really about a tactical battle, it was about really who fought the hardest, and that's one of your strengths. Every 50-50 ball we won and that. Do you think it got to a stage really that at the end of it, tactics wasn't really important at that point, it was more about how much you wanted? Because one of the things that we will remember you by, and hopefully we don't see it too much against us, is your will to win, which is one of your biggest strengths. Of course, goal scoring, but you don't give in. Do you think that was what the squad did from that Charlton game? Because that return obviously goes into Walsall and things like that. Yeah,
we sat down. We had many a meeting. If I'm completely honest, and I don't think the manager will mind me saying that. If and when he hears this, we had meetings about how we were going to turn it round or try and turn it round, and everything kind of came back to a point of we just need to fight. We need to fight and scrap and fight harder than everybody else, because it has to mean more to us than it means to them, especially those clubs who weren't in any way in danger of losing the status of being where they'd worked so hard to get to. I mean, if you look at the season we promoted, should we have been promoted? Probably not, if you take into account the budgets and the size of the clubs. And I don't want to talk about budgets because, as you saw with Leicester and us getting promoted, it's not the be all and end all, but it does make a big difference. But there was no way really, if we're honest, we should have been promoted from League Two, and we fought and scrapped and got to a point where we were sat in the dressing room thinking we're not going to lose this at all. We're not going to get knocked out in the semi-final against Accrington. We're not going to lose the final against Plymouth, even though they've brought another, 40% more fans than us, and they're making more noise than ours, or they've got this or they've got that. It got to a point where we weren't ever going to lose that, and it was kind of, I suppose, in a way, trying to recreate that. And did we recreate that? I don't know if we quite got there. Did we get to a point where we trusted each other enough, and the staff trusted us, and we trusted the staff, and the fans were behind us, where we were in a position to go, do you know what? Let's just go out there and run around, and it will take care of itself because we're working hard enough for that to be the case. I mean, if anything, that's where we got to. The Doncaster game was a really strange one because we knew we needed a point. They had absolutely nothing to play for, really, and it was a tough one because you go into your shell and it's survival mode again. Whereas it could potentially have been so much more than that, but human nature is let's negate the worst case situation first, and then we'll deal with the rest later. So it was, a point's enough. 3 points would be great, but a point is enough mathematically. I think it turned out we didn't even need that point, but a point is enough. So you kind of get to a point where you deal with that first, and unfortunately we only managed to get a point there, and I think, if I recall right, we only got a point at the end of the season as well against Bury.
Yeah.
But that point was the most important point, and we managed to get that in probably the ugliest of situations. But you saw at the end of that game what it meant to the fans and what it meant to the players. I mean, I saw my own teammates look like the most relieved people on this planet, and then we all went back to the hotel and we all had a drink together in the bar, and some people were up till 2 or 3 in the morning, and it was just, thank God we've done that. Like, we've busted our balls for the last however many games, scared, I think it's the word, scared that you're going to be remembered potentially for the wrong thing. And we'd managed to do it, and the relief and the release of pressure was palpable. I mean, everybody could see it. You could see it on people's faces. You could see it on people's shoulders. And the fans were brilliant that day. They sung and sung and sung, and they got us over the line when we were literally on our knees. And that was brilliant. It would have been really nice to do it, I suppose, poetically. It would have been really nice to do it against Bury at home and finish it, I suppose, in a more, I don't know,
sort of one of the historic sort of circumstances or something like that. Yeah, like when we had many years ago, we stayed up on the last day against Fleetwood Town. That's sort of an iconic sort of day. Whereas I suppose staying up this year was more, like you say, an accumulation of months and months of hard work, which is also underlined with a lot of, as you say, stress and pressure that comes with it. I mean, you mentioned the hard work you put in for that last 6 months, and perhaps you earn your luck sometimes. And the Charlton game, like you mentioned, certainly a case of where the amount you put into it means you deserve that little bit of break when it comes your way. I think one of the games from last season I remember where we didn't really have any luck, Plymouth away, midweek. If you've got recollections of this game, I think we had a goal disallowed where perhaps the ball hadn't gone out of play or something like that, or a dodgy offside, or things going against us and goals against us and whatever. Standout question I've got to ask about this game, though. So we started conceding a couple of goals. I think we went 1-0 down, 2-0 down, whatever it was. We started doing huddles on the pitch, which is something we'd not seen before.
That bugged you as well, didn't it? When we were doing that.
I was thinking, what's this? Where's this come from? It was like, well, my only concern at that point was we were searching for things to try and get us out of a bit of a bad run, and we were sort of throwing mud at the wall for things that might suggest, we need something to help us out here. Where did that come from? Was that a squad thing that you guys just decided amongst you? Look, we might go down here. We're playing against a team in great form and what have you, and coming in a bit of bad results, we're still together, we're still going to do this? Or was it a manager thing? Like, guys, if you go behind, don't worry about it. Set it back to the old sort of schoolboy days of it's still 0-0, whatever the score is.
Yeah, no, that was a player-led thing. That was a result of a meeting we had, and it was a case of after you concede a goal, people invariably point fingers, whether you mean to do it or you don't. It's normally somebody's fault. It's not very often somebody gets the ball out of their feet from 40 yards and puts it in the top corner, and you go, there's not a lot I could have done about that. Invariably, it's someone's fault when a goal is scored. So it was more a case of scrap that. We've conceded the goal. It doesn't matter if it was him or him. We've conceded the goal. So we got together, and it was, we go again. We have to go again. We can do nothing but keep going and go again and go again and go again. And that's what it was. And I suppose in a way it was hoped that would get the crowd or keep the fans with us, because we were going through a really tough time, and it might have been that 0.5% or that fraction that made the difference to us, and that was really why we did it. Was to get the group and go, no, it doesn't matter, we go again. This was how it's supposed to happen, so we'll go again and we'll keep going. And that's what it was for. It was more of a visual representation of this won't beat us. And it was a player-led thing, and the management staff were on board when it was suggested, and I don't think it was necessarily a bad thing. The only problem was we conceded 3 goals in the first half. So we were doing a lot of huddling.
It was something we'll notice. Wasn't that a game you then decided to upset the Plymouth fans in front of? It was that. No, let's be fair. You like doing that, and that's something that's about your game. Did you do that to? I don't know. If they're on your back, then we work harder, because you do work in adversity sometimes, don't you?
Yeah, I mean. That's kind of who I am. I've been fighting adversity since I was at Millwall, when I was released for not being experienced enough as an 18-year-old. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard something so stupid, but I haven't. And my career really and truly was built on, no, I'll prove you wrong. It was 2 fingers up at you. All right, let's go. And I was getting abuse from the Plymouth fans from the warm-up. Now, in the warm-up, I tweaked my knee. I tweaked my medial. I kicked the floor doing some shooting. I'd had a shot, Macca had saved it, and it had bounced awkwardly, and I'd volleyed it. And I either kicked the floor or I caught it on the end of my toe, and I opened up my medial. And I didn't know if I was actually going to be able to play. So I'm sat there on the bench getting treatment off of Dougie, and I really didn't know if I was going to be able to play or not. And Dougie went, "No, I can't take you out of the game. I can't. You're just going to have to play." So I went, all right, fine. So I was getting abuse from the warm-up from the Plymouth fans, effing and blinding, calling me every name under the sun. And then as the game went on, before I'd scored, if I got the ball, they were shouting and doing this. And yeah, people say ignore it, but why ignore it? At the end of the day, why ignore it? If they can abuse me, why can't I give them a little bit back?
No, absolutely.
And it's not like I stuck 2 fingers up at them. It's not like I did anything that was inflammatory.
So you enjoyed yourself.
Exactly, as I do. And it was kind of gutting that you end up missing a penalty for your hat-trick. Especially when you've scored, had one disallowed that should never have been disallowed. And then you're looking at it thinking, that could have been the best game ever, and it would have been 4-4. Yeah. And I could have ended up with 4 goals.
Yeah. And really rubbed it in.
And it would have really rubbed it in their face. I mean, did they get the last laugh? Yeah, because I missed the penalty. But it's all right, because I'll be playing them again this year.
I'm not taking penalties. Yeah. Was penalties a problem for you last year? You went through a stage, didn't you? You went through a stage. Obviously, we know there was a stage, and we can come on to it. Obviously, with the penalty against them.
Yeah.
Did that way? Because you are a very thoughtful player. Do you know what I mean? You play on passion. I think we've seen that. Did that affect you? Because I know you can tell by body language sometimes, and your body language straight after that was. Did that affect you?
I'd never felt lower. Genuinely, the next couple of days after that, I I sat there at home and I didn't want to play football again. That was probably the hardest day, or the hardest couple of days I had in my 3 years. Was I felt I'd let my family down, the club down, the fans down, my teammates down, and everyone. And even thinking about it now, it still brings back those emotions, and it's not nice. I don't like that, because I don't ever want to feel like I've let anyone down. But at that moment, regardless of what had happened before, I felt like I'd let everyone down, and that was really hard for me, and I didn't process that well at all. And genuinely, I sat at home after that night after the game. I don't think I got to sleep until about 6 o'clock the next morning, and that was the toughest time for me in a Wimbledon shirt. And I didn't really know what to do with myself then. I hadn't scored before that game, and I'd taken it on my shoulders to take that penalty and to try and get us back into the game, and I single-handedly had messed it up. Whether it was a good save or a bad penalty or whatever, it was on me, and that was the hardest thing, the hardest time in 3 years.
I think we as a fans, and as we talk about fans, I think we were more a case of you had the balls to go and take it. I think if we knew you as a player at that time, we knew that you had the balls to go and do that in a situation that I don't know if any of you. I think I'd have been hiding. I think I'd been hiding behind us. I think some of it was you had the balls to go and take it. Yeah. Penalties are a lottery, as you know, sometimes on that. I suppose if we go, let's do a reverse on that. Obviously, the win against them. What was that day like? Because I remember getting there early because I was intrigued at how they were going to get into the ground, because we all know Kings Meadow, it's not the easiest place to get someone in undetected, is it really?
Yeah.
What was your thoughts about the whole day? Because they come in via the away entrance. What was that day like?
That day was literally the polar opposite. That day was, the only thing I can liken that day to is the playoff final. It was, I suppose, that feeling, that sense of injustice, of being an underdog almost in your own backyard, and it was unbelievable. I look at the pictures now and I see the video of the goal, and I see the video of Reevesy's goal, and
yeah, he never scored normally.
Exactly.
What's he doing in a box?
He scored, 2 in 2 years, so
yeah.
Good ratio. But I see that still, and it still makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up the same way the game against Plymouth does. And it was a special day, and the only thing I can think and say is that I'm so proud that I managed to play a big part in that game, and that's another game that will always be remembered, and it'll always be remembered because it would be the first time we beat them at home in the league. I think it was the first time we played them at home in the league.
Yeah, it was.
So those days, especially for Wimbledon fans, because of everything that happened before, those days will go down in history. The playoff semi, that game, the playoff final, and it was the polar opposite of how I felt last season. And that was the biggest problem for me, was the last time we'd played them at home, I'd been on such a high because I'd had played a massive part in setting up the first goal and then scored the second goal, and then the picture of me celebrating is the picture that's on the season ticket holder, season ticket thing, and that is an iconic picture now with the blue smoke behind my head. And
the irony is, you couldn't take anything into the ground that day. You would search. It was supposed to be the biggest security thing we had at Kings Meadow, and someone managed to get a flare in and let it off at the time you scored. It just seemed like it meant to be.
It couldn't have happened any better, could it? And that was probably the hardest thing about missing that penalty, was that I'd gone from such a high the year before to such a low only a year later, and it was just a massive contrast.
Do you think that second game came a little bit too quickly? I mean, you've mentioned there, you're saying about feeling like you let people down. I don't think anyone thought that at all. I think as a fan base as well, the atmosphere for that second game wasn't up there with the first one. I guess it was never going to be, but was it a case of it seemed to come very early in the season, and that almost seemed, for us as fans base, I think it was actually harder for us to get up as much as we were for that second game as we were for that first one. Yeah. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I understand that. I think it was, what was it, about 10 games in or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So,
It was middle of September. So.
yeah, I understand that, and we'd started slowly. At that point, I think I hadn't scored. I don't think Cody had scored. I think Kwesi had scored, but was injured by that point. And it kind of makes it really hard because we were struggling for goals in the team. And I suppose if that game happened after Christmas, in January or in December, I think it was November, December, January, where we put together a really, really good run. If that had happened then, I think that the atmosphere would have been completely different, because we were on a real high. Everybody was scoring goals and the team was putting in some really, really good performances. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it came at the wrong time for us. But then I suppose the game where we played them away, in my opinion, we absolutely battered them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Macca made one save from one of our mistakes, I think it was, and we battered them, and I don't know how we didn't score. And it would have been really nice for us to go up there and to beat them 1-0 and to turn around, stick two fingers up, get on the coach and go home. That would have been really nice. I would say it'd be nice for the club to do that this year, but we all know what happened.
Unfortunately, we won't get that chance.
We're not playing this year, are we? Yeah, it's not good. I actually forget sometimes they got relegated. I try and forget about them as much as possible. But it would be nice if they struggle in League 2. That'd be great.
Wouldn't it just? I mean, you mentioned the comparison between the Plymouth game and then beating them last season. Were there games, whilst you were playing in them, that you were in any doubt about the result of them? Because as fans, we're especially the Plymouth game, we're very, very nervous. And you'd think something can go against you. People think that something can go wrong. But in reality, when you watch it back, we dominated that game. Like, tactically, everything we got right that day. Was that the feeling you had as the game was progressing on the pitch? Or was it just a case of waiting for our chance to come and then taking it when it did?
We never thought at any point we were going to lose the game. I mean, I know that the manager's done interviews and he said that he looked around and he looked at his players and thought there's no way these boys are losing this game. And we stayed in the hotel the night before, and it was just the usual. Everybody was having banter about somebody stealing B's Red Bull at half-time a few games before, or drinking it or whatever had happened.
Bayo?
Yeah.
That's a bit brave, isn't it? That weren't you then, was it?
I was on the pitch, so thankfully I couldn't get blamed. I think me and Ozzy had a lovers tiff over dinner because I kept winding him up, and he lost his head in the end. But it was just so relaxed. Like the atmosphere was just so it's meant to be. I mean, there was the trip to Vegas afterwards, and it was almost like we've got to the point where we've managed to earn a trip to Vegas. Nothing really can go wrong. Like everything that could possibly have happened that is good up to this point has happened. We've put a run together from Christmas to the end of the season to come out of nowhere. I think we were 16th or something at Christmas, and we pulled ourselves out of a hole at Newport. We got ourselves in a big hole at the home to Stevenage, wind assisted, as it were.
It's a nice way of putting
it. But we'd managed to get to a point where everything had gone right for us, and it was never even thought about that we could possibly lose at Wembley. Which, looking back at it, is really strange and really, I suppose, possibly naive, because if you're in that place where this can't go wrong, and then it goes wrong, that's a really tough place to be in, because it's so completely unexpected. And I suppose that's where Plymouth were, because we were getting messages before the game from former players who played for Plymouth at the time, saying, "Oh, we're going to smash you, we're going to do this, we're going to do that," and we're like, who are these idiots turning up in all their suits, and everyone's got the same suit on, and everyone's got the same shoes on. You all look like,
and they were around the pitch in tracksuit tops and everything. Yeah.
Right, let them stroll around the pitch giving it Billy Big Licks. We don't really care. We turn up in our Admiral tracksuits, all with different coloured trainers on, looking like Rag-Arse Rovers. And it was great, because Rag-Arse Rovers had made it to Wembley, and we were never going to lose that game. Never.
I think it's summed up going to Accrington, because obviously that game in the playoff semi-final, second leg. I've been to a lot of games. I don't think I've ever been that nervous in my life. How long did it take in reality for that ball to drop after Jake's messy run, because that ball seemed to me like to hold in the air for ages. Did it sort of like time? I imagine one, you're probably moaning at Jake for not passing it.
Yep.
And two, did it just feel like that ball just never was going to come down?
Do you know what? It in that moment, and I've thought about it before, and obviously that goal it's not as iconic as the goal in the final, but in that moment, it was the ball was just in the air, and it was this has to hit the back of the net. It was. I don't think I'd had a chance in the game to that point, and obviously at that point I think I'd scored 21 goals, and it was. This is perfect, and I actually remember watching it back, and Ian Holloway says about how I moved my feet to get ready for the ball to drop, and I think I took about 5 or 6 steps while that ball was in the air, and they were tiny little steps, and it was just to get myself in a position where I could make a clean contact, and the ball was only ever going to go in the back of the net. It was the same way when Baz stands that cross up, and Bayo's going up for a header with one of the strongest players I'd played against that year in the league, the right back. I can't remember what his name was, but he was playing centre half that day, and he was very, very strong. And I remember trying to pin him, and he shifted me out of the way, and I thought, oh my God, what is going on here? Like, this isn't normal. And the ball was only ever going to go on Bayo's head, and Bayo was the only one that was ever going to score that goal. And it was the same way when that ball popped up from Reevesy's run, and Reevesy, if you watch it, he rugby tackles the fella to keep him on the floor.
Yeah.
And it pops up in the air, and this is going in the back of the net. I don't know how. I don't know how many deflections or how unclean this is going to be, or if this is going to come off my backside, but it's going in the back of the net. And after it hit the net, it was pandemonium, like running down the line to celebrate with the team, and I'd had a tough week that week. The morning before, I'd crashed my car. And before that, after the first leg of the semi-final, I'd had a walk around the training ground with the manager, because some stuff had gone on, and my head really wasn't in the right place. And in the first game we played against them, the manager said to me, he said, "Lyle, what's wrong?" He said, you're not happy. I can see you're not happy. He said, what's happened? And we had a walk, and I think it was probably about 45 minutes we had a walk around the training ground, and we had a chat, and I won't go into what had got me to the point of not being happy at all, but it was really strange, because we'd got to the playoff semi-final. Did we win the first leg? Biro scored.
Yeah,
we won it 1-0.
Yeah, Lyle.
And I wasn't happy at all. I wasn't happy before that game. I didn't play well. I wasn't happy after the game. And then had the walk and the chat with the gaffer, and to my knowledge, the boys had a meeting. The content of the meeting will, I assume, never ever come out, because I don't actually know. I know roughly what was said, but they had a meeting while I was having a walk with the manager, and it was about how we were going to win the playoffs, how we were going to get through to the final, and how we were going to deal with, or how they were going to deal with me not seeming happy. And they had that meeting. I didn't actually find out until they came back from Vegas that they'd had that meeting. And what I will have to say is, the way my teammates dealt with me in that period was unbelievable. And I suppose in a way I owed them those 2 goals simply for how they dealt with me in that period of me not being happy, and put up with some of the things that I did during that season. And I'm glad at the end of it we could all have a smile on our faces and all celebrate being promoted. But I do owe my teammates a lot from the last 3 years, and I don't know if they'll ever know how much they helped me. But I'd like to think that they knew it was appreciated. So No, I never thought we were going to lose the game. The semi, the final, and the game against them the next year, I never thought we were going to lose that game either. And it's a really strange feeling going into a game, not overconfident, but just knowing.
Yeah.
You mentioned your teammates there. Brings us nicely on to a little game we like to play about some of your past teammates. We call it Play With, Sleep With, Avoid. Basically, we'll give you 3 names. We'd like to say which one you'd most like to be in the same team as, which one you'd most like to share a hotel room with on an away trip, and then finally the one you would just avoid. Now, with that promotion-winning squad in mind, I guess the first 3 names we have to give you are Adebayo Akinfenwa, Adebayo Aziz, and Tom Elliott.
Oh, wow. Okay, so Tom was my roomie.
Okay.
So I'll keep Tom as my roomie.
You'll sleep with Tom.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll sleep with Tom.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard one because I'd play with all 4 of them. Well, all 4 of us would all play together.
Yeah,
all
yeah.
3.
Yeah,
I'd play
yeah.
with all 3 of them. I probably had a better playing relationship with Bayo than I did with Addy. So I suppose on that I'd have to avoid Addy. I'd play with Bayo and I'd sleep with Tom.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think we'd all avoid it. Adebayo Aziz, to be fair, who has been on the show as well, of course.
Yeah. I think he struggled with this answer as well, didn't he? I think Jake Reed struggled with this and.
Oh, is this the
sleep with one? Yeah.
the sleep with one? Yeah, just
Jake
that
took
one.
ages.
Yeah. Do we want another one of those?
Yeah,
very
go on.
quickly. Let's go for centre midfielders then. Danny Borman, Dean Parrott, and Jake Reeves.
Well, Reevesy being my best mate, I would probably. Would I rather play with him? Yeah, I think I'd play with Reevesy.
Yeah.
I'd play with Reevesy. Danny Borman's last game for Wimbledon, I actually roomed with him.
Okay.
So I don't want to room with Dino because Dino has to sleep with the iPad on.
Hold on. What?
Yeah.
Does he have to watch films or something to get to sleep? Or?
Dino has to sleep with the iPad on, so I'm definitely not rooming with Dino.
No, fair enough.
So I'd have to avoid Dino and sleep with Bully.
Quick fire questions then. We've got a couple of these as we tend to wrap up. So basically, I'm going to ask you some very simple either or questions. It's just the first answer that comes into your head. All right?
Yeah.
Okay. 10 of these. First of all, Red Robin or Rockin' Robin?
Rockin' Robin.
Oh, wow. I hope there's no Charlton fans listening for that one, I swear. Okay, sheds or gazebos?
Gazebos.
Who is the best Charlton, Bobby or Suzanne?
Bobby.
Yes or no? Should a man ever willingly go to see Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, more than once, let alone just once?
I don't know who that is, so I'm going to say no.
Just pointing my head in the direction of
Yeah,
my
it's
co-presenter here.
my joke. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, Stu's missed about 3 times. He's missed 3 Wimbledon games to go and watch Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
That is unacceptable. That's enough to get you sacked.
Yeah, it's a good show.
And you probably wore that shirt when you went as well. Right, careful with this one. Luton or Watford?
Watford.
No, what's he done? Oh, dear. Okay. What would you rather wake up with no teeth or no hair?
Oh, wow.
That's a humdinger.
I mean, that's horrible because obviously I take great pride in my spaghetti or biscotti head as my,
You haven't changed
my
it this year
nephew
either.
says it. No, it's going to go pink. I'm going to do something for breast cancer awareness. So I'm
Brilliant.
going to go pink boots and pink hair for October. So I'm
Great.
going to set up my Just Giving page or whatever it's going to be to set that up and try and raise some money for charity and then
stuff.
auction the boots. Hair or teeth? I don't know. I paid good money to have my teeth straightened.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of pain for 9 months with braces on.
Oh, yeah.
No hair.
No hair. Fair enough. Custard creams or jammy dodgers?
Custard creams.
Farmers, yes or no?
No.
Finding Nemo or Desperately Seeking Susan?
Desperately Seeking Susan.
And finally, when you make a cup of tea, does the bag go in first or does the milk go in first?
No, the bag goes in first.
Absolutely. redeemed herself after the horrendous Watford.
We are English.
Absolutely.
We do it properly.
Absolutely. Do you know who doesn't do that? James Shea.
Well, Shazy is a law unto himself, and he's a very strange fella.
James Shea knew he'd done the wrong answer when he was back for one of the games last season, wasn't he? He found us and goes, "Can we record it again?" It really bugged him all season. So
it's Will Nightingale as well, the same when he picked Watford as well for Luton. So, oh well. Anyway, we'll get into another day. Very quickly, then we've got one more new game for you. We call this Would or Wouldn't.
Okay.
You have to be very careful because sometimes you might say would when in fact you meant to say wouldn't. As we all know, this can be tricky. Basically, we've got a bit of a 90s theme on the podcast this season, so I'm just going to run you off a quick list of famous, classic 90s footballers.
Okay.
You have to just tell us if you would have played with them or if you wouldn't. Basically, if you rate them or not.
Okay.
Okay, so Nicky Barmby.
Wouldn't.
Did you say wouldn't?
Wouldn't.
Are you sure you went wouldn't? Not would. Okay, all right. Ludek McCloskey.
Oh?
Ludek McCloskey. Surely you know, was he West Ham?
he was West Ham goalkeeper.
I'm going to go wouldn't.
Fair enough. Egil Ostenstadt.
Would.
Peter Undlov.
Wouldn't.
Julian Joachim.
Would.
And then finally, this isn't a footballer, but Alexa Bliss.
I don't know who that is, but simply off the name, I'm going to go would.
Good answer. Good answer.
It's a WWE star, yeah.
I'll show you. Star. She's a star. She's a superstar.
Okay.
Lyle, thank you very much for your time. Before we sign off, just one quick question. So, 3 seasons with us. We've gone through many memories and things like that. In terms of yourself and your progression as a footballer, what do you think? How do you think you've changed as a player or improved or whatever? What do you think's been the biggest sort of takeaway from your time with us for yourself?
I've grown up. I look at it now and kind of wish I was this player 3 or 4 years ago, because I think I've got better, but I don't think nothing's really changed ability-wise. I've just, I suppose, almost in a way unlocked the confidence to be able to do the things that I've done, and I think that's down to the management I've had. So, if anything, I'm probably now happier in myself and able to express myself more maturely and more wholly than I did before. When I was a little bit younger, I had an opinion. Even though that opinion might have been right, I didn't earn the right to have that opinion. So I've probably got to a point now where I'm happier in my own skin and more mature with it, and that allows me to be the player I am.
Cheers, Lyle.
Thank you for having me.
Right, new game. Oh, I love this. So, in the history of the 9 Years podcast, a brief history, we've had some classic games. We've had the birthdays game.
Yeah, which I've done well at.
You did enjoy the birthdays game. I missed the birthdays game, actually. I did quite enjoy it.
It was easier.
It was just pure guesswork. I mean, you can't really be wrong, can you, so much? Poli on Go was our big hit, I think. A Higher or Lower we won't speak of ever again. George Long Road to Wembley we had for a brief spell last year. And then, what was it? Abdu or You last year.
That's right, yes.
You found really tough going, didn't you?
I find them always tough going, but yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully, I reckon you're going to do better this year with this game, because this is...
No pressure.
I think... Yeah, no, I'm confident. We're going to start off very gently as well, so you should be all right. So, the new game, new title. Welcome everyone to Neil Coxless Pairs. Neil Coxless Pairs.
Coxie is going to be so flattered that on season 4 we've finally got a game named after him.
Well, I felt, seeing as you've been sponsoring his kit for however many seasons, it's about time we got more Neil Cox related content on this show.
You wait until I let him know. He will be absolutely gobsmacked and probably say more than a few words than he normally does.
Possibly so.
The best media trained person ever.
We'll have to get him playing this game and see how he does. Right. So this game, basically what happens is, it's called Neil Coxless Pairs for a reason. I'm going to ask you 2 questions, and you have to take the answers of these 2 questions and merge them together into one answer. I'm going to give you the example, okay? Anyone that is listening that at any point watched a new quiz show by Richard Osman on BBC Two will know this game, okay? I've blatantly stolen this, basically.
Good.
But I've given it a Wimbledon twist. Because basically everything we do on this podcast is stolen.
Exactly.
We've stolen it. There's nothing original on this show. Nothing original at all. So basically, Neil Cox's Pairs, and if I was to give you the 2 questions, who is Wimbledon's assistant manager?
Neil Cox.
Okay. And then the second part of the question would be Olympic rowing event with 2 people in a boat.
Pairs. Coxless Pairs.
Yeah. So Neil Coxless Pairs becomes one answer, which is Neil Coxless Pairs. You see how it works?
Yes.
Okay.
This is going to be fun.
Well, I told you I started off gently. There's a theme
That
every
worries
week.
me.
The first half will be a Wimbledon related, and the second part will be just anything completely random. Okay. I've started off with Premier League players, so Wimbledon FC Premier League players. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
So we'll start off nice and gentle. I promise you get this one easily. So, number one, we want a midfielder who scored in the World Cup for Jamaica.
Okay. Yes.
And then the second part is traditional tea blend.
So Robbie Earl LT.
LT?
L. Oh, what's it called?
Oh, wow. I can't believe we've fallen at the easiest one.
L.
And
L.
believe me-
Grey.
So the answer is
Earl Grey.
no. What's the full answer? You have to merge the answers together.
Robbie Earl Grey.
There we go. See how it works?
Ah, God help me.
This is going to be fun.
This is going to be painful.
Okay, let's see how you get on with this one then. Number two, striker who signed for Aston Villa in 1994.
Okay. In 1994, they had loads of strikers signed for him.
Yeah, but former Wimbledon player that's played.
Oh, former Wimbledon player.
They're all former Wimbledon players.
Oh, John Fashanu.
There we go. An American boy band featuring Donnie Wahlberg. Famously had a bunch of hits.
NSYNC? Is it NSYNC?
No, what's the answer then? What's the combined answer? John Fashanu,
NSYNC.
That doesn't work, does it?
No. John Fashanu, Backstreet Boys.
No.
Johnny, NSYNC. New Kids on John Fashanu, New Kids on the Block.
So say it again.
John Fashanu, New Kids on the Block.
No, it's not John Fashanu, New Kids on the Block. It's John Fasher.
John Fasher, Kids on the Block.
No, dear me, this is
I might have
painful.
to watch this
I'm on
game.
holiday, Stuart. I don't want to be back. I feel like I'm back in the classroom.
New Kids, John Fashion. Oh, John Fashanu,
Yeah.
Kids on the Block.
Now say it one time. And
John Fashanu, New Kids on the Block.
John Fasher, New Kids on the Block. Yes, there we
Oh,
go.
yeah.
Amazing. See
Okay.
how it's working now?
Yeah, I may have to watch this programme to get a bit of an idea of it.
Teething problems, I think. Okay, all right. Well, this one's going to be fun then. Right, Norwegian midfielder who famously scored in his debut against Aston Villa, making their second appearance in this game.
Oyvind Leonardson would be the one.
Mm-hmm. It was indeed a Jane Austen novel that turned into a film featuring Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet. Think of period dramas.
Period dramas, my knowledge of films is not very good.
No, but it's a novel, but okay, that was turned into a film. Right, use the last part of the first answer to start the second answer.
Leonardson. No.
No? Okay. That was one of my favourites as well.
Was it?
Yeah. Oyvind Leonhard's Sense and Sensibility.
Ah, okay, cool.
Oyvind Leonhard's Sense and Sensibility. See?
Cool.
When it works really well.
Yeah, it ain't going to work too well with me.
We're struggling. All right, how about this? Oh, you got no chance. Final one then. Sonic the Hedgehog.
Andy Clark.
God's messenger, believed by Catholics to have foretold the birth of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Saviour. I didn't think you'd get this one.
Hey, look, the good thing about this, right, is I'll get the first part right, so technically I get half a point.
Okay. All right.
That's about right, isn't it?
I'll give you that.
So Andy Clark, and I haven't got a clue about the rest of it.
No, this is my favourite one. People around the world listening right now. Andy Clark Angel Gabriel. See? See how that's worked?
Cool.
See, I think I get more fun out of this than you every week.
You will.
Yeah.
I'll get better.
You will
I
do.
won't get much worse.
I think it's the first week we're doing it. And finally, this one is... I'm just going to throw in a bonus wrestling one for people. Because, you know, lots of our listeners love the wrestling. They love the graps.
They do.
So, I mean, you can get the first part. Striker who scored 2 headers against Crystal Palace.
Sir Carl Lieberman.
And then the name of Seth Rollins' theme song. You won't know this, but I'm giving the listeners a moment to...
Carl Lee Burn something, obviously, innit?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yes.
So you getting it?
Burn... I don't know is he a WWE wrestler?
Yeah.
Burnside? I don't know. Burn...
Carl Lee D.I. Burnside.
Yeah, there's one there, isn't it?
Carl Lee Burn It Down.
Ah, cool. I think I'm getting the idea of this game, though. It's gradually... I'm going to have to watch this programme.
I think next week we might do better.
Yeah.
Once now you've got the hang of it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah,
but then Coxie will be so pleased that he's got a game named after him. That is trivial. I think we'll get Cox in. We'll try our best to get Coxie to do this.
Okay, we'll get Cox in.
Neil Ardley and Coxie against each other.
Okay. Cox in, not Cox out.
Next.
All right, moving on. All right. So this is it. We had told you a bit of a bumper edition of the podcast this week. We thought we've got our first ever meeting as AFC Wimbledon with Sunderland, haven't we, this season?
Yes.
So as soon as that as soon as I got my head around the idea of us playing Sunderland, I came up with an idea. What I wasn't expecting was to play Sunderland quite as early as we do. And it's one of our first games. It's in the end of August, isn't it? So it actually only gives us 5 podcasts in which to do this. But if you remember, in the late 90s, there was a documentary on BBC called Premier Passions, which followed with behind-the-scenes dressing room footage of Sunderland back in the Premier League. And they did a documentary over 5 episodes. So we thought over the preceding 5 weeks leading to our first game with Sunderland at the end of August, we'd watch them back and do a little bit of a TV review of what's going on.
Yeah, it's a good little programme.
Fits into our little 90s theme this season.
And of course, Sunderland is Eric Samuelson's childhood team.
It is indeed.
So I'm sure that he's watched this and can remember Roker Park as it once was, which is a great memory from watching the first episode.
Well, funny enough you say that, because that's where we pretty much start, with Roker Park. Now, what I've done then, I've uploaded the first and the second shows onto our YouTube channel. So if you search for Nine Wirers Podcast, there's a playlist there called Premier Passions. You can watch this back yourself as well if you wish to, and you can watch along with us in future episodes if you choose to do so. But yeah, I'm going to talk this through because it is a walk down memory lane. It's such a nostalgia trip. So this was first shown on BBC One on the 24th of February 1998, but it was encompassing the 96-97 season. So Sunderland just got promoted. We won't spoil it for you if you don't know how it ends, but there is a massive Wimbledon link with how it begins and ends, actually, so it ties in quite nicely. So basically, we start off clips of Sunderland winning promotion from the old, what it would still have been the Nationwide, was it? Division 1, I think?
Yeah, it would have been Nationwide,
Would have been Nationwide, whatever it was. And as you say, Stu, Roker Park. No names on the shirts in the Football League those days, which I couldn't believe.
I'm trying to think now. I think I saw names on the back of their shirt.
In the Premier League, yeah, but when they got promoted,
right, okay, but
there weren't any from the Division 1, yeah.
Oh, that's right. So you went into the Premiership, and that's right.
That's when you got squad numbers.
It feels weird now that a Nationwide or just call it a Championship and League 1, League 2 had different branding and everything like that, because now it's very similar, isn't it?
Yeah, they've basically taken their lead from the Premier League.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. But yeah, Roker Park, Sunderland, if you look at the first series or first episode, it's really unreal now to look and see where they come from that year and how bad not how bad they were, but how little they had, to now realising how little they have again.
It's gone full circle, yeah. It really has. Almost has gone full circle. But, yeah, well, this was 1996, as you say. They're having a parade to celebrate. This is all in the preamble and stuff like that. First thing I would say is it's going to be a long 5 weeks because we're used to HD, and this is not high definition, and this is video VHS tape.
Yeah, but you know what? When I was watching it, it didn't bother me because it's old, isn't it?
It is. It's vintage.
I can imagine our younger fans of, say, in their 20s and 30s will look and go, how do you watch that? But it's nostalgia. I loved it. I watched it from 5 o'clock this morning.
Oh, wow.
Because I was getting everything ready for our interview. But I loved it. And I can remember Peter Reid looks so young after seeing him. He's at Wigan, isn't he, now?
Is he really?
He's a backroom. I saw him last year when he come down. He's part of their backroom staff. I don't know. He's not a coach. I think he's too old now. I think he must be in his 60s now.
Right. But he will be, because at the time, I can believe he was 41 at the time.
Yeah. So he was at Wigan. He was down with the backroom staff at Wigan this year and looked, he looks old. He is old.
He always looks old.
What a player. And had a decent managerial career.
He did all right. They called him the narrator, who I think was Diane Morgan, who does Philomena Conquer. I don't know if you've ever seen that, her things. It's not, but my word, it sounds just like it. She referred to him as a scally messiah for Sunderland, which I didn't quite get. No. But anyway, yeah, and that was sort of the preamble into their promotion into the Premier League, and then you get the dramatic entrance, all the red smoke across the screen. It was all very over the top, perhaps, very 90s, very nice. Oh, it was very much of its time as you're watching this. And then they have the sort of gospel choir like operatic music, which irritated me instantly. Right. So yeah, we got 5 weeks of this, listening to that. Now this is the best. So it starts off and they're doing the whole take of the various Sunderland fans talking about how much the club means to them and stuff like that. They've got a fish and chip man, what I think is a science teacher. Later on, I think she's actually a student, which I couldn't work out why they put her in a lab with a white coat on. I could have sworn it was a teacher, and then a painter like decorator. Now all of these people are doing their J jobs wearing a Sunderland scarf, which I don't think is health and safety. There's got to be an issue there. Like guy up on his ladder, Right, his ladder's set up in the middle of the room. He's not actually near a wall or a ceiling or anything. He doesn't appear to be actually doing anything. He's just on a ladder wearing
Just
a
sounded good, didn't it, when they pitched the idea?
He's just got the best 90s curtains hair as well. I thought it was my brother there for a minute, reliving his youth.
He did have it back then.
He did. But yeah, I've got to say, in this weather, you're not going to be wearing a scarf at any time, let alone whilst you're trying to do your job.
Who would have hair in this weather?
It's got to be a danger as well. Like with those Bunsen burners, if your scarf just drops into it, you know what I mean? Set on fire.
Health and safety gone mad.
Health and safety gone mad. All right, mid-table then, Sunderland were at the time, which I couldn't believe. I just thought they struggled all season, to be honest with you.
Yep.
But apparently they were mid-table at the time, but their home record wasn't great. And look, first game they showed, who was it?
Against us.
It was against us, who we have said, the narrator says 18 games at the time we'd been unbeaten going into that game.
So was that season? That was the season when they had 7 deadly wins, wasn't it? Do you remember the video that did?
Yes.
The VHS
The
video.
VHS
that came out,
video,
which
yes.
I'd love to see. I think that must be on YouTube somewhere.
I've looked for it, I can't find it.
Shame. If somebody's got that, please upload it to YouTube.
Yeah.
It was a 7 deadly wins, and from the start of the season, after I remember correctly, wasn't that season Shearer went to Newcastle and we lost at Newcastle?
Yeah, his home debut was against us, wasn't
I
it?
think we lost the first 3, if I remember properly, and then went on
Without
7.
scoring, yeah.
So they faced us, yeah. No, you probably got it there. What made me laugh was Peter Reid saying about we will win the battles, just win the battles, and I'm thinking, that midfield, you ain't winning battles.
No. When you looked at the names that started, well, we'll go through the names that sort of popped up on the screen. Peter Reid does say that in the dressing room as well, which is tiny. Like,
yeah.
That was in the Premier League era, but you forget it was still the what was it, the 4th or 5th season. I never went to. I'm gutted I never went to Roker Park. Would have loved to have been there, but tiny. He said quick passing and they won't be able to live with you. I was just laughing and laughing and laughing. But yeah, also what was great was they had a groundsman. They were chatting to the groundsman before getting the pitch ready and stuff like that. His name was Tommy Porter. And he was literally getting the Dulux white emulsion and painting the penalty spot, which I was just like, that's amazing. I don't know what they do now, but I can't imagine.
And watch it. I don't know if it was dodgy. I don't know if it was a dodgy feed, but I swear that penalty spot wasn't properly round.
Oh, I don't think so at all.
I was thinking there's a little. And I think as I'm getting older, I get OCD. But there's a little bit, and I think you've not done the proper round circle. And nowadays, surely there's equipment.
Yeah,
that they would use for that. So yeah, have a look at it just for that. I don't know how he done a spin up.
It made me laugh. He came on looked like a butcher as well, like in his white coat and all this business going on. But So I was looking at the names that were coming off on the screen. Neil Lardley, of course, Robbie Earle, Alan Kimball, Vinnie Jones was the captain. You talking about the midfield, winning the midfield battle, and then so basically they're showing highlights of this game with that god awful choir music all the backtrack the whole way through. I'm thinking, whose idea was this? Why? But anyway, FN Akoku scored. I think Akoku scored twice, actually, I think.
And header.
2-0 down. It really is bad, this music. I've got to say, it's like they've got like this choir music going on, but they've also mixed it in with, like, you know, the old Casio keyboards, and it has like the drum and bass mix that you press and it just plays. It's like a combination of the two.
Which was your music at that time, wasn't it?
It was.
Simplified.
How's that ever a thing? But yeah, 2-0 half time, and the best half time. I felt like I was watching an AFC Wimbledon Story So Far DVD with Terry Eames, and the amount of every other word was a swear word, and Peter Reid was just laying into them. And he said, in his words, this is not about tactics, it's about arsehole.
Funny thing was, right, I actually thought they'd gone to the end of the game. I forgot that we got the goal in the second half. So I thought he'd just said it and then walked out and go into a different room and then slammed the door theatrically. So obviously the cameraman was thinking we're going to your room. Peter Reid's like, you ain't coming in here. I forgot. I didn't realise that was half time. I thought that was his end of game talk. But yeah, I think you can see. I think Peter Reid gradually starting to think we're going to be in trouble because his team got out-battled. Yeah,
we absolutely ripped them apart, to be honest with you, on that day. What's interesting, I wonder if the producers of this show, that was the first game they filmed, or they'd done it previously and it had just been a bit bland and whatever. They wanted to start on a bit of a dramatic defeat and the fallout from it. A bit of selective editing, perhaps.
Well, being 13th isn't going to really sell the programme, is it?
No, very true. Very true. Neither's kids playing around us.
Yeah.
So anyway, they go back second half, atmosphere, noise starts to lift. Miss those old grounds, those old atmospheres. I was looking at this the other day. So many grounds in the Premier League that year that, oh man, the Dell, Highfield Road, all these places. We should go back to those. Highbury, amazing. But anyway, Dean Holdsworth then, oh no, they got one back. Darren Holloway, I swear it was Darren Holloway.
He was playing a favour us later on.
Came and joined us in Division 1, yeah.
Yeah, probably would have been.
He scores, but then Dean Holdsworth, what's the finish? 3-1. What a goal.
It's one of my favourite goals, and Dean Holdsworth that season was on fire. I don't know how many goals he got that year, but we know what goes along with Dino, with him going there and stuff like that. But when he was at Wimbledon, he was probably the best finisher I saw sign for us. He was technically very, very good, and that goal he did in training. I used to go down training as I was younger back then. I used to go down to training ground a few times and he used to score goals like that for fun.
And that was it, game over. 3-1. Peter Reid was asked in a post-match press conference, was that the best team you've seen? And he said first half, yes. Seemed to improve the second half, but too late by then, perhaps. And then the narrator says, this is a brilliant line, to finish that little wrap of our game, said, little did they know that Wimbledon would come back and haunt them. I thought that's great foreshadowing there.
It is, isn't it?
It is, but we won't spoil it.
I wonder what happened there.
I don't know. Let's not spoil it for the listeners who are under the age of I was going to say 12, but no, this is 96, 97, so this is like going back 20 years. So
that's scary.
Isn't it just? Right, so then they cut to an interview with Kevin Ball, who was the captain, I think, at the time. I think he's still there in some capacity, or maybe he was later on, I don't know.
He is, yeah.
And he sat down on his floor sofa of the time, this is brilliant, in his lounge, and they're talking about getting promoted, and he discusses the Premier League. And do you know what word he uses to describe the Premier League? Razzmatazz.
It's a great word.
And I laughed.
It's a great word.
And I laughed.
I might have nodded off at that point. I was tired this morning, but that's a great word. I wonder where you got that. I wonder where I got that from.
I wonder where you got it from. I laughed so much. And then they were going through some of the players they'd signed. Tony Coton, who'd apparently broken his leg, signed for Manchester United.
Yep.
He must have been about 60 at the time. He looks so old.
Do you know what I was thinking about that, actually? And it's probably a subject, actually, I think we may cover at some point. But Tony Coton, if I remember properly, was about mental health. He had a lot of depression and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I can imagine that was probably started by breaking his leg in 5 places.
Yeah.
And of course, I don't know if people saw the non-league
of course, yeah.
with Ryan Clark,
yeah.
who very similar. I know it's been on social media. But yeah, Tony Coton, I believe, I remember reading a story that he did go through a state of depression. And I can imagine, signed for Sunderland, big move, and then breaks his leg in 5 places, which I probably imagine back then, I don't know if the technology was good enough really to probably recover, was it?
No. I think that was it for him, wasn't it?
But he was a good goalkeeper. I remember seeing Watford. Started Watford. I know. I started Watford and Man City. I forgot about Man City. Did he go to Man United at one point?
He joined Sunderland from Man United, yeah.
There you are. Yes.
But Ryan Clark, I mean, hindsight being, I'm venturing off topic for a moment, but hindsight being 2020, I remember him walking out. First time I saw him was when he walked out for that Walsall game, opening day of the season, that season. And immediately I thought, I didn't have a good feeling just because of the way he was, just that sort of feeling you get, the posture, whatever it was, makes a lot of sense now if he was having problems at that time.
Yeah, it does, and he never connected with the fans. But to be fair, if he was going through the trouble he probably wasn't connecting
with anyone.
Yeah, and I know that's not meant as a flippant. I know I can be flippant, but he probably wasn't connected with anything. And we said one of the things he struggled with was he never got the fans on side, and we never related to him. Yeah, you can sort of see it now. The club were in a difficult situation. I sensed when he left, and a little bit after, that there was something more to it.
Yeah.
And there obviously was. But mental health I think it's something we will probably cover at some point, because mental health in many industries, and especially our work, is massive. But it's not the same thing at football. You don't admit to somebody that you are in trouble.
Yeah.
And the person we just interviewed, Lyle, has not saying mental health, but has very emotions high and low. Don't accept it nowadays, do we? I think we should do.
Very well said.
I know we've gone off topic. That's surprising.
That's right. That's fine. Let's go. Well, we're talking about injured players. That started with Tony Coton. Niall Quinn, which is another player that was injured at the time.
The tallest player I've ever stood next to.
Who, hilariously, the narrator said, although past his best. I was thinking, well, hold on. 3 years later in the Premier League, him and Kevin Phillips were tearing the division up.
I was just going to say that, yeah. Niall Quinn was a great striker.
He was. Apparently past his best at the time.
And also very clever, because he obviously ended up getting enough money together to actually take over the club, didn't he, in a consortium?
Of course.
So it doesn't look like he aged anything. Niall Quinn never aged.
He didn't. And that's a very good segue, without knowing what you've done there, because then they started tying in, so they tied into the sort of things behind the scenes, the new stadium that was being built, and they went into the commercial side of it and the chief executive and all that business.
Yeah, I saw that.
The fact that they were the 4th club to join the London Stock Exchange, which I had no idea about after Man United, fair enough, Leeds and Spurs. Sunderland of all teams. But yeah, hilariously, they go out onto the Stadium of Light pitch, or what would be the pitch. They go out there in their like full-on suits and everything like that, Wellington boots on, hard hats, and holding up some red. I didn't get it. It looked ridiculous, but hey, that was the 90s trying to sell. That was the 90s slick production of being on the stock exchange.
It got me thinking though about our move. When I saw that, it got me thinking about our move in terms of how we're going to sell our. I'm assuming we have Zec boxes. I'm assuming we have that sort of thing. And I saw there was when you watch it, there's a lady phoning up companies, and I just had this vision of either phoning up all his contacts. Can I come and see you?
Lady Wimbledon?
Well, yeah, but no, it got me thinking actually of how much of a job it's going to be
Oh, yeah, it's huge.
driving in revenue. And
of course,
Sunderland were
yeah.
a big club in that area. And they were basically going through packages, which seem quite expensive even now, the packages they were selling. But yeah, it got me thinking, really excited. And if I remember, I don't know if you saw this, but on one of the boxes, Peter Reid's name was down.
Oh, do you know what? I looked at the list and I made a note of some of the people that were on that list. And yeah, I saw Peter Reid's name. I thought, brilliant.
He's
Did
not
they
well,
pay
is he?
for that? Or
And
is
he also got shares as well.
Yeah.
Peter Reid moved to Sunderland at a very good time.
Oh, he got that spot on, didn't he?
Yeah.
Bless him. But you're right, they were selling all these packages and stuff like that. And the woman who was sort of in charge of it, I don't know. She didn't strike me as a sort of football person.
No.
I think I'd normally I thought I could picture her in like Thompson Holidays or like doing adverts for
Where is she
chocolates
now?
or something. Yeah, it's just not that. Where is she? I wonder where she is now. We never got a name for her. Maybe she'll pop back up later in the series.
I'm sure we can Google and find out who
We
she
could
was.
probably find that out. What was also interesting was they were doing the buy a brick at the stadium, where you could buy pound money, get your name on a brick and stuff like that. It must have been one of the first clubs or stadiums to have done that. And they had a baby they were signing him up for it. And I was thinking, that kid is probably about 22, 23 now. What a miserable existence supporting Sunderland has been for that child. It's basically been get relegated, come back up, get relegated again. Nothing much to speak of.
It's going to be weird seeing him in our division this year. Absolutely weird as anything. As Lyle just said,
Of course,
it's got a great infrastructure up there.
Yeah.
It's just stuck up north.
It's just a long way up north, but there's lots of season tickets they've sold. So
20,000 plus a year in?
So they've sold 5 times the capacity of our stadium in season tickets. Just puts a little bit of perspective in there.
Ridiculous, huh?
Right, so they're going through. They have a game with Arsenal, which is brilliant, but they win that game. They go through all the usual. That background music is ridiculous. It's like 5 weeks of this. I'm not going to. I'm going to be punching my computer screen by the end of it. But they actually beat Arsenal bizarrely. They did refer to them as the soft Southerners. I think they got a second half goal at half time. They were getting a roasting by Peter Reid. Michael Bridges, 12 years old at the time. Was getting
was that was a Bergkamp team, wasn't it?
Oh, it was, yeah. It was a great Arsenal
So
team.
was that the year before the Invincibles?
No, the Invincibles were 2003, 2004, weren't they? So it's quite a long way
So
off.
a long way off.
They won the league.
weren't
They
that
won the double
invincible.
the following season, I think. 97, 98, they won the double. So it was that sort of Petit Vieira type team.
When I saw Arsenal, I was sort of expecting Arsene Wenger to walk through the door in a very early stage, and I was really gutted that he didn't.
They never showed him, did they?
No, he must have been a manager then, mustn't he?
He was, yeah.
And I was thinking, how funny would that be to see Arsene Wenger still Arsenal manager?
I know, after all that time.
back at that stage. But that was a good win for them at that stage, and it shows that we're better than Arsenal.
It showed you how well they were doing. And like Sunderland, actually, they must have collapsed as this documentary goes on towards the end of the season. They must have just totally collapsed. But yeah, so then they moved on to, like you were saying, about selling the boxes and stuff at the new stadium. Right, some of the list of companies that I noted down, right, was brilliant. Wimpy. Northern Electric, I don't know why I've written that one down. That's of no interest to anyone whatsoever. Euro wall coverings, which I wonder, what is that? What are Euro wall coverings? Like wallpaper? Is that what that is?
must be.
I don't know what that could be.
We're talking about the late 90s, aren't we? So
Yeah, just
design must have been something like that.
Something like that. It's a bit weird. A silver screen, which I thought was the HMV rival that was short-lived, but obviously a bit longer than.
Oh yeah.
Peter Reid, as you mentioned. Sky, which I thought obviously. Jurastic, what is that? Jurastic and Noraline.
But then I don't
like
know,
a cream of like medical thing. I don't know.
I don't know if you ever watched like the old World, especially the World Cup, obviously through the summer, when you watch the old World Cup films. And you see some of the sponsorships, even
true.
back then, like, and how basic the sponsors. Like now, we're used to. Let's be honest. We had last year. Was it Oldham or Bury had the digital
advertising hoardings,
advertising board. You know, we're going back to sometimes back then. That wasn't even thought of back then.
No.
So yeah, some of the sponsorships back then were. I think they were more local companies, wasn't it? Because the Premiership wasn't really a big brand it is now. It hadn't taken off that much, had it?
No, not to the extent. No.
You know, when we think about it, but I think. So you still had the sponsorships, which were mainly local, northern based, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Right, so all this done. Fascinating comment about this, by the way. They then go to a supporter about this who says they're not bothered by the man on the street anymore. They're not bothered by the fan who's just buying a pie and a programme. And I thought, I'm not going to expand on that. I'm just going to leave that one there.
No, amazing. Huh?
Say no more. All right, my favourite part of the show then was the transfer. They finally tried to buy a striker because they were low on numbers with injuries and stuff like that. They tried to get an Israeli striker in. I didn't remember this name, and there's a reason. So Hirazi was his name, Israeli striker. They £500,000 this 25-year-old striker who they brought in. And Paul Bracewell, as the assistant manager, is doing all the press conference and stuff. And then he fails the medical. Apparently, he's got a nail in his leg holding joints together. His cartilage is bad, and the physio, Nigel Carner was his name, is just laughing about because he's reading off a list of problems they found, including a stress fracture of his foot. Right? Kevin Ball says, aside from all that, he said he's fit as a fiddle. Like, brilliant. And so they pull out, and he never signs for him. But it was just hilarious watching back the old technology, the old medical technology they were using to perform this medical, which got to the stage where they were signing a contract and announcing it to the press.
And there's nothing like back then. Also, you have to remember that there wasn't a scouting network or the internet. There wasn't the internet network there is now, where you can literally scout a player before they even come to you. You were literally just taking a gamble on. And we do have players that sign from Israeli clubs now. Back then, it wasn't heard from.
No.
You have to remember, Orvin Lee Larson was our first international. I think it was our first international signing.
Where was the Polish lad?
Detchu Kaczynski, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Who was one of my first, I wouldn't say heroes, but in my first team that I saw.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'd come across from Poland or he was just here.
No.
I'll be honest with you.
No, but you're right, Leonardson was the first one I certainly would have known, yeah.
And then we signed every Norwegian game.
And that worked out beautifully for us, didn't it? Didn't that work out well? So they move on. Oh, they go into the office. I only mention this because they go into the office for some reason. I don't know why. They're just random scene of the receptionist. It looks like a porn set. I can't explain it in any other. No, it seems like a fake office that they've built with this like reddish pink lighting in the background and stuff like that. And a man walks in. I'm expecting a man walk in with a big screwdriver, just here to fix her in tray. Yeah. And I was just like,
you obviously haven't seen. It's like Tony Coton should come in with a moustache. Like a porn star moustache, because that links into Mr. Trotter and shit.
Oh, well.
Mr. Trotter could have easily walked into that room.
This is what you're thinking, right? Is this the mental image you've got now? You want to see Liam Trotter in a porno?
No, it's just someone. Oh, who is it? Matt Harwood talking about. He's some porn star now, and it's just stuck with me. Or some Mexican. They said the Mexican name was Matt, and someone else called him a porn star. Of course, Trotter's neither. But
thanks for clearing that one up. So, Liam Trotter, breaking news exclusive here on the 90s podcast. Liam Potter is neither Mexican nor a porn star.
Liam Trotter's just my favourite player this year. He was my favourite player towards the end of last year, just because he divides opinion.
I told you, Liam Trotter is my second favourite player.
Yeah. Behind George Franklin.
No. Do you want to know who's first?
Who's first?
Everybody else. It's a tie. Right. They go to an away day. I'll finish up with this one. Their last game was Aston Villa away. They sort of do it from the angle of travelling with the supporters on an away day on the coach and stuff like that. We meet the Sunderland Stew, I've called him. The man that goes to every single game and actually said in his... It was just a noise, to be honest with you, when he was speaking. I couldn't really understand what he was saying. Basically said that somebody had told him at work in the pre-season, we've got a friend, Sunderland playing tomorrow night. He was like, what? And he'd missed it. So he had to book off emergency annual leave so he could attend this pre-season friendly.
Yeah.
Like, mate, you've got to sort your life priorities out.
That was me before family.
Oh dear, that's so bad. But then they were saying, like, they get on the sports coach and instead of gone are the days of Roots Hall with Southend, I'm thinking, well, that's awkward now, isn't it? This season coming. They're going to Ellen Road and Highbury. Anyway, things are starting to go wrong at this point. Some dodgy results. They lose to Villa. The manager's quite happy. I mean, the biggest issue of the whole thing, two things about this. One, again, that goddamn music. And secondly, they do the pre-match talk in the dressing room, and Pete Reed's saying his bit and stuff like that. They cut away to one of the shots of the players, and they turn back, and Peter Reed is there just pulling up his trousers up, tucking his shirt in. I'm thinking, what has happened? What have we missed? Like, what's happened?
Where's the unseen footage?
Yeah, like, what's going on? Like, I was very worried at this point, because clearly they didn't perform in the second half, so whatever he was doing, he didn't work.
There's many ways to motivate a player, as they say.
Well, that's probably not one of them. And afterwards, ironically, they're all the ones looking glum and depressed. They're all naked in the changing room, sat around looking depressed, but he's quite happy. He said he's, very happy with the performance and blah-de-blah. I've got to say, though, they've got some weird camera angles on this show. Like, when they're doing the interviews with the players one-on-one or chief exec, whoever it is, it's like cameras like there, like 45-degree angle. It's very odd. It's like they were doing it in a broom cupboard.
It's like a cutting edge of them trying out new things that actually never, ever took off.
Yeah, it didn't work. It didn't work for me on this occasion. But anyway, and what also didn't work was the fact Sunderland fans leaving back on the coach, singing songs all the way home, apparently. I was thinking, no, they weren't. They were for that 30-second you're filming. No one's singing songs. If they are, I'm getting off that coach and walking. But yeah, so that was the first. It was fascinating watching. It was very entertaining. It flew by. I'm looking forward to the next one to see what happens. But well, we know what happens at the end, don't we? It's like watching Titanic. But we know how it ends. But it's fun. The journey getting there is going to be quite fun, I feel. And I'm looking forward to more porn sets, 90s haircuts.
By the time Sunderland visit us at Kings Meadow, we will know everything there is to know about that season.
Yes,
and probably as much of a car crash as that season was, will probably be this season. I don't see him get promoted, but hey,
No.
that's for next week.
We should talk about that more next week, because that does bring us to the end of this week's show. But we will be back next week, as Stu mentions there, with our season preview edition. Sam Elliott is booked to join us at this moment in time, so we're very much looking forward to that, where we will preview the League One season in full and talk more about the current goings on at AFC Wimbledon, as we've sort of skipped about that this week, really. But yeah, just a reminder, Wimbledon Fan Show is meant to be back this Sunday. If it doesn't turn up, don't blame me. We're touching wood, fingers crossed, who knows? But that's the last we heard. It's going to be this Sunday. Stu's not going to be there, I'm not going to be there, but somebody will be. So tune into that Love Sport 8 p.m. back on Sunday evenings. Aaron Paul will be there, of course. Good friend Aaron presenting it. So
Aaron's not left the building.
No, I don't think. I think he lives there now.
Bless him.
That nice little office they've got downstairs, I think he sleeps on that table, I think. Anyway, we've got pre-season games, Boreham Wood, Havant and Waterloo and stuff like that, so check out our social media for updates from those. But not a massive amount of updates, I think, but keep an eye out. Anyway, don't also forget, I must do a quick plug as well. The AFC Wimbledon Business Club, as we know, is up and running. Regular events all the time. So if you're interested, this week's due their big event. They're taking part in a tree surgery demonstration with former Fulham left-back Rufus Brevitt. So if you're interested in that, check that one out. Aside from that, thank you very much for joining me, Stu.
Thank you very much.
Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last, and we will speak to you again next Thursday.